Well, hello Barbara.
Hello Mike.
I hope you are now recovered from your previous unfortunate injuries.
The consequences of the bad gull scootering disaster are now behind me.
So no change then?
However, my recovery has not been totally without incident.
How could it be otherwise? For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Whilst I respect the laws of Newtonian physics, I have been sadly let down by the fifth proposition of Archimedes of Syracuse.
Science is a fickle mistress, or master as the case may be. What happened?
In order to raise the temperature of my fundamentum, you may recall that ice acted on the Rayburn.
Quite so, and I volunteered to invest in some asbestos to ensure adequate temperature control in your lower latitudes.
Ice acted on the Rayburn in the hope that some warmth would travel to my fundamentum by the principle of thermal conduction.
And were you successful?
I was indeed. A temperature rise was observed. Sadly, I was so taken with the principle of conduction I quite forgot the principle of convection.
Perhaps thermodynamics are not your strong point.
A large volume of hot air from the Rayburn filled my frock to a volume of approximately half of 4/3 pi r squared.
How very distressing.
The hot air displaced the colder air roundabout. Obeying the principle of Archimedes, hydrostatic lift was thus generated.
This is going to be bad.
The hot air commenced to rise, and the rising air propelled my frock upwards.
Is there a video?
As the frock was securely fastened below the bust, I was carried into the air.
If there is no video, a still would do.
Stately as a galleon, I rose from ground level, progressively increasing my potential energy level.
Do you have a pilot's license?
The adiabatic lapse rate was such that the temperature differential increased, and I accelerated inexorably towards the ceiling.
Not a temperature inversion in sight.
On reaching the altitude of the ceiling, my head suffered a sudden and painful deceleration.
No.
However, my frock continued to rise.
Now about the video.
As the frock passed waist level, the hot air escaped, and I was relieved to feel the pressure on my head decrease.
This is not as good as it sounds.
At this point, devoid of hydrostatic lift, I commenced a downwards acceleration.
The principles of Archimedes do require a gravitational frame of reference. Can you confirm your rate of acceleration was 32 feet per second?
Despite the suspected presence of the Tresmeer gravitational anomaly, I believe my acceleration was of that order. Although I was concerned at the steady increase in my level of kinetic energy, I was just commencing the calculus when I suffered a further change of velocity.
How very inconvenient.
I abruptly decelerated to an apparently static state on the floor of the kitchen.
I hope the floor was undamaged.
Fortunately, I landed on a well-padded area, and the quarry tiles were indeed undamaged.
I hope this has not affected your harping technique.
Mike, I am indeed touched by your sympathetic approach. Would you like to have a go on my scooter while I stoke the fire?
Eureka. I never thought you would ask.